Declan felt the piercing pinpricks of consciousness reclaiming him before he forced open his eyes. There wasn't a muscle, bone, or ligament in his body that didn't feel as if it had gone brutal rounds in a fight cage with an ultimate warrior. Forcing himself fully alert, he glanced around trying to piece together the scene before him. Deafening silence caused goosebumps to climb his flesh as he turned to the left and saw only foliage. Turning gingerly to the right, he felt the punch of guilt in his gut as he came face to face with Cale Keem's death-glazed eyes. Compelling himself to shut out his own pain, he moved into a crouching position, scanning his surroundings. Nothing but trees and brush everywhere didn't help fill in the missing puzzle pieces of what had occurred. No sound, light, or other indicator of an impending reoccurrence of an attack was forthcoming, so he turned his attention to Cale. Declan cataloged every detail for his report later back at headquarters. Both Cale's legs were fractured through skin and clothing and were lying at grotesque angles. Cale's left arm was hanging on by tendons and twisted under his back, and the other arm was a bloody, pulpy mess. His throat had been slit, and that was after he had put up a god-awful good fight, evident from the bruises, cuts, and scrapes on his knuckles, face, and other extremities. Declan rolled his head back, and then his shoulders, trying to loosen the stress and pain out of his own being. His job was to bring back the missing, no matter the cost to him personally. Luckily, Cale weighed only about 160 pounds, relatively small compared to some injured soldiers Declan had lugged out of hellish places early on in his career. As a private contractor, this was only his third assignment, and his boss would want answers. Declan tried concentrating on the events of the last few hours. At first, it made no sense why the attacker had left him alive in the midst of such a vicious attack, but then the picture became clear with each passing moment. His research into Cale Keem had fit on a single sheet of copy paper, and been squeaky clean compared to some of the characters his company worked with and those he had helped dispatch during his military career. Cale was a good student, recently graduating from high school. Declan had found zero family ties to organized crime or other suspicious background blips during his thorough investigation after being assigned to find and retrieve the young man. Declan's job was never to judge his assigned individuals, but rather his thorough background checks prepared him for what level of resistance or other entanglements he might find during the commission of his assignment. Whatever had occurred last night was unexpected based on all data collected prior to the mission, and not even fully making sense in his recollections. He remembered Cale moving low with him, his hand on Declan's back to reassure that they were in step with each other as they inched through inky blackness. Suddenly, a movement to his right had arrested Declan's attention away from their path. Now thinking back, he couldn't clearly define the features, height, or bearing of the person who had attacked them. But he remembered the feeling of ice-cold dread unlike anything he had experienced before. Declan understood the risks of his job and worked to keep emotion at bay during the execution of a mission. This premonition was something that had gone through him like a chill, not internal, but external in nature. Cale had pulled out 2 knives and joined the fight head first, causing Declan a moment of pause as he realized there had been something missing in this boy's background check. The onslaught was just one long blur of turning toward noises in the darkness. He hadn't been armed with night vision, as he sloppily thought they would be free of the trees prior to total darkness. He wouldn't make that mistake again, Declan vowed. Blood dripped down his face from cuts inflicted by razor-sharp slashes before he could fully register what happened. When the person did materialize, it was too late. The attacker was at Cale's throat, and the red necklace detailing complete mission failure was dripping down Cale's t-shirt. Declan had bent over Cale with a rag ripped from his backpack, attempting to staunch the flow of blood. Cale's hand reached inside a pocket and extended a folded white paper to him, marking it in blood as Declan accepted. Cale nodded toward the paper. Declan suspended movement as long as it took to stow the paper in his own front pocket and button it inside, appeasing the boy. You must find her," Cale whispered as his eyes fully glazed over. Declan heard a movement behind him, signaling another attack. In that moment, as he gazed at Cale, he knew this was to be his last assignment. He couldn't stop someone this good at invisibility. He felt himself land flat on his back as something akin to a staff took his knees out and sent his legs flying in the air.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.